Top oil exporter Saudi Arabia targets zero carbon emissions by the year 2060. How are they going to do that? Top crude exporter Saudi Arabia aims to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2060. Its de facto ruler said on Saturday, this is just in, before the COP26 Global Climate Summit that's due to take place in a couple of days, I think in 2 days, in Glasgow, Scotland. And this is from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The kingdom, one of the world's biggest polluters, said it would also join a global effort to cut methane emissions by 30% by the year 2030. The UN says more than 130 countries have set or are considering a target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by the year 2050. An objective, it says, is imperative to safeguard a livable climate. Now, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said, I announced today Saudi Arabia's target to reach net zero emissions by the year 2060. This is what he told the Saudi Green Initiative Forum. He said, I'm pleased to launch initiatives in the energy sector that will reduce carbon emissions by 278 million tons annually by the year 2030, thus voluntarily more than doubling the target announced, Prince Mohammed said. He said, we also announced the kingdom's accession to the Global Methane Pledge. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. The statement said Saudi Arabia would contribute to cutting global methane emissions by 30% by 2030 as part of its commitment to deliver a cleaner, greener future. The 2060 target, he said, would enable us to have a smooth and viable transition without risking economic or social impacts. This is also what Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman said. The COP26 President Alok Sharma welcomed that announcement. He said, I hope this landmark announcement will galvanize ambition from others ahead of COP26. This is what Sharma tweeted at it. He was looking forward to seeing more details on the Saudi plan. The Aramco 2050 target. Shortly after energy giant Saudi Aramco said it committed to being a net zero enterprise by 2050, Saudi Aramco, they said, will achieve an ambition of being also a net zero from our operation by 2050. This is what Aramco Chief Executive Amin Nasser said at the forum. He said, we understand that the road will be complex. The transition will have its challenges, but we are confident we can meet them and accelerate our efforts to a low-emission future. Saudi Arabia is estimated to emit about 600 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, more than France and slightly less than Germany. The year 2050 has become a focus for carbon neutrality, defined by achieving a balance between emitting carbon and absorbing carbon from the atmosphere. As COP26 approaches, a string of countries have pledged to aim for net zero emissions by 2050, and global airlines and banks are also targeting the mid-century goal. UN Chief Antonio Guterres said Friday the current climate situation was a one-way ticket for disaster, stressing the need to avoid a failure at COP26 in Glasgow. From what I understand, Russia and China will not be going. Now, held between October 31st and November 12th, the gathering is seen as a crucial step in setting worldwide emission targets to slow global warming. Tree planting drive. In March, Saudi Arabia unveiled a campaign to tackle climate change and reduce carbon emissions, including a plan to plant billions of trees in the coming decades. The OPEC kingpin aims to reduce emissions by generating half of its energy from renewables by 2030. This is what Prince Mohammed said at the time. The prince announced on Saturday that the first phase would include planting more than 450 million trees and the rehabilitation of 8 million hectares That's nearly 20 million acres of degraded land. Saudi Arabia also said it would designate new protected areas. The move brings the total protected areas in the kingdom to more than 30% of its total area. Prince Mohammed said adding the first set of green initiatives would cost more than 700 billion riyals, or $186.6 billion. Princess Rima bint Bandar Al Saud, Saudi Arabia's ambassador to the United States, said the land conservation move was critical. She said at the forum, "We want to diversify our economy. Hospitality meaning, hotels, the hotel industry, and tourism are key to that, but so is preserving our environment," she said. Saudi Arabia currently draws on oil and natural gas to both meet its own fast-growing power demand and desalinate its water, which consumes huge quantities of oil. The initiative comes as energy giant Saudi Aramco, the kingdom's cash cow, faces scrutiny from investors over its emissions. In January, Bloomberg News reported that Aramco excluded emissions generated from many of its refineries and petrochemical plants in its overall carbon disclosure to investors. So it obviously that's not good information if you're excluding emissions. It added that if those facilities are included, the company's self-reported carbon footprint could nearly double, adding as much as 55 million tons of carbon dioxide, equivalent to its annual tally, roughly the emissions produced by the country of Portugal. And this is by Agence France Presse on phys.org. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.